Hello, and welcome to Lecture 4 for English 421Y, Technical Writing. In this lecture, I will discuss the different types of cover letters, the general structure of a letter, 3 different ways to organize your body content, and common mistakes I often see when I was tutoring cover letters as a writing lab tutor. Before I start, make sure you have looked over the cover letters PowerPoint and the cover letter best practices handout, both of which I co-created for a presentation to the Cranner MBA students a few years ago and illustrate effectively a number of the principles I'll be discussing. I will repeat some of the information in these, but I will not go through them word for word, so make sure you are familiar with them beforehand. If you've never written a cover letter before and don't think you will need one, it's still valuable to learn how to write one because, first, promotions in upper-level positions typically require them, even if entry-level positions right out of college do not. Second, these skills translate to other types of letters that you might write, including letters of thanks, letters of inquiry, letters of complaint, letters of apology, letters of recommendation, follow-up letters, and resignation letters. The format of a letter is still widely used. Even though a lot of communication happens digitally, letters are still sort of an important and classy way of providing information. As the best practices handout, As the best practices handout states, every cover letter should be tailored specifically for the position to which you're applying in order to tell a story about how you are qualified for that position. You want to be very specific, directly reference keywords or requirements for the job description, and show genuine enthusiasm for the position. Most importantly, you should avoid using a form letter for multiple jobs because form letters are vague and lack the customization that you get through tailoring. If this is your dream job, you should write it from scratch to make sure it says exactly what you want it to. If you aren't serious about the job, or if you're applying to it kind of as a safety position in case you don't get the job that you really want, revise an existing letter, but still take the time to make sure it reflects what the position is looking for. If you submit a cover letter that is not tailored, that has been in no way, shape, or form changed to meet that company's needs, they will notice, and you will probably not get that job. Like resumes, cover letters are highly purposeful and rhetorical documents. Because the rhetorical situation for each job or position is unique to that company or organization, it's important that the structure of your cover letter matches your purpose for writing. As such, there are roughly 3 different types of cover letters: experience-based cover letters, skills-based cover letters, and qualifications-based cover letters. Determining which one to make is based entirely on your preferences, but also the job to which you are applying, which is again why I'm asking you to select an actual job description. So an experience-based cover letter is where each paragraph focuses on one experience and demonstrates many skills gained in that experience. So for instance, if you have 2 body paragraphs, each body paragraph will focus on a separate job, maybe a job and an internship, or an internship and an extracurricular activity. And then each paragraph will provide detailed explanation of the skills, responsibilities, and abilities that you performed or gained during that position. And that paragraph will only focus on one position. Then the next paragraph will focus on the next position, whether it's a job or an internship or whatever. In a skills-based cover letter, each paragraph focuses on one skill or a set of related skills and describes multiple experiences from which that skill was gained. For instance, your first body paragraph might be technical skills related to engineering or related to computer programming or whatever. In that paragraph, you're going to describe multiple skills at multiple jobs, or a single skill at multiple jobs, or a set of skills at multiple jobs. But the key thing is that you're emphasizing the skill or skill set rather than an individual job. This allows you to talk about multiple positions. You might mention between 1 and 3 different jobs, Or you might mention a job, an internship, and a volunteer position, or whatever. Again, with a experience-based cover letter, you're talking about one job per paragraph. With a skills-based letter, you're talking about one skill or skill set and multiple jobs per paragraph. Finally, a qualification-based cover letter is where you demonstrate, you make an argument for why you are qualified for the position. And then each body paragraph presents a different aspect of that argument. For instance, the first body paragraph might focus on your experience at a similar job. Your second body paragraph might then focus on skills that you bring to that job. And then your third body paragraph might focus on your professional goals or your long-term career interests. A qualifications-based cover letter is the most difficult to write because you are developing a clear and consistent argument. You're not just providing examples of previous experiences or previous skills, but rather you are making a clear, coherent argument for why you are qualified for a position using different paragraphs with different types of evidence. I think that a qualifications-based cover letter is best for more experienced applicants, or in cases where you are applying for a job, maybe at a company that you've worked at for a couple years, or if you've done an internship with the same company over multiple summers and now you're applying for a permanent position. That would be another case where a qualifications-based cover letter would work because you have more material to work with in order to make a compelling argument. The most common cover letter is definitely an experience-based cover letter. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the general structure of a cover letter. I've briefly talked about the rough structure, but I want to jump into a PowerPoint presentation that I have asked you to take a look at that will give you more information. So the structure of a cover letter, the conventional structure of a cover letter is that it's a one-page document that follows the formatting conventions of a business letter. You have at the top some sort of heading, usually the sender's address, followed by the date, followed by the employer's address, followed by the salutation. You then have three rough structures: an introduction, a body section, and then a conclusion. This structure gives you a clear organization, and you can see it replicated here. This is a rather short cover letter. You'll see some that are a little bit longer or that take up more space. But again, you have an introductory paragraph, a body paragraph, and then a conclusion or closing paragraph. I want to talk a little bit more about each of these sections. The header includes, again, the sender's name, address, the date, the receiver's name, address, and title, and a formal salutation with the receiver's name or a dear hiring professional. A couple things that I want to point out here. First, if you don't know the name of the person to whom you should address, you should call, especially if this is a job you really want. If this is your dream job and you are banking on this job, call, find a number, send an email. It's worth putting in the extra legwork to find a name. Some companies won't reveal that information. Some companies will reveal that information if you call, but won't reveal that information otherwise. When in doubt, call. The worst thing that will happen is the company will say, there is no single person to whom you should address this, in which case you should use dear hiring professional, not to whom it may concern. To whom it may concern is outdated. It's not kind of in vogue right now. If you use to whom it may concern, it feels sort of sloppy. Dear hiring professional or dear hiring committee is something that is a little bit more current, if that makes sense. To whom it may concern, it seems sort of lazy in a way. Next is the introduction. You introduce yourself, you state the position and title for which you are applying, you demonstrate some knowledge of the company, and you set up your body paragraphs with a direct summary of your qualifications. So, for instance, in this paragraph here, you can see, After speaking with Emily Richards about her past summer in the Civic Internship Program, I am very interested in your Human Resource Summer Internship position, ID number 9161987. I worked with employee benefits this past summer and became interested in the human resources aspect. I have obtained many leadership opportunities while working as a business writing consultant, assistant coordinator at Purdue's Writing Lab that would be valuable in a career at this company, Civic HR Recruiting Center. In this, they clearly state the position, they provide a little information about themselves, and then they summarize the information that's going to then be described in the body paragraph. That last sentence, here it's done okay. I'll show you some examples in a second that do a better job, but that last sentence is pivotal because it states, here are my qualifications, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in the remainder of the letter. It forecasts the expectation. It says, this is what's coming next. It also clearly indicates why that person is interested in that job. Finally, the body provides concrete evidence supporting the qualification statement in the opening paragraph and demonstrates alignment with the description or the ad. So the body paragraph matches what is stated here, so anything that is described in the body should be forecasted in the introduction and vice versa. It also demonstrates clear alignment. As business writing consultant assistant coordinator at Purdue's Writing Lab, my primary role is to help train new tutors for the Writing Lab. That first sentence, again, this one is okay. I'll show you better examples in a second. But that first sentence says what the paragraph is about. It says why this position aligns with what the job is looking for. Finally, the closing concludes the letter with a strong statement. Again, this letter doesn't do that. I'll show you a much better version in a second. But a strong statement of purpose. Something that reiterates your objective and purpose using language that shows your enthusiasm and alignment for the position. It then ties together your claims from the body paragraphs, provides relevant contact information, and subtly indicates your interest in an interview. The body is perhaps the most important part of the cover letter. It is the longest part, and it contains your primary argument. It demonstrates your skills, abilities, and knowledge, and shows what you would bring to the position. These paragraphs aren't just a list of your skills, but rather a demonstration of a specific experience or experiences that show your skills, that demonstrate your skills, that stating I have excellent problem-solving skills is much less persuasive than providing an example from a recent job or class or internship that shows your problem-solving skills in action. So again, a body paragraph demonstrates what you have done, and then states what you can do. There's some disagreement about whether the body should be 1 or 2 paragraphs, which is why I've listed criteria for both in the rubric. So here I say, if using single paragraph structure for the body, you must integrate multiple examples, use a logical structure with clear transitions, and have multiple connections to the position. If you're using a multi-paragraph structure, make clear distinctions between each based on skills and qualifications, use concrete examples to show relevance, and with a specific direct connection to a position. What I mean by a single paragraph style versus a multi-paragraph style is how many paragraphs you use in your body section. If you use 1, you are including all of the information in a single paragraph. If you use 2, or sometimes 3, you are splitting each paragraph and focusing on one position or skill. As I said, there's some disagreement about this. In my opinion, single paragraph cover letters always feel too crammed with information and disorganized. They're fitting everything into one paragraph, so it's hard to navigate. It's hard to find specific information because that clear division isn't that clear. My recommendation is always to use 2 and rarely but sometimes 3 paragraphs in order to keep focused on a limited number of examples. 2 paragraphs works really well for a skills-based and an experience-based letter, while 3 paragraphs can work well for a qualifications-based cover letter, because in a qualifications-based cover letter, you need to do more. You need to have more information. You need to make more arguments, and sometimes it might go to 2 pages. Skills or qualifications-based cover letters can be done very effectively in 2 paragraphs and almost always should be done in a single page. With skills and experience-based cover letters, you want to avoid merely listing the different skills or experiences without providing context or examples. Using 2 paragraphs and dedicating each to one skill or one experience forces you to say a lot about that one position rather than saying a little bit about multiple positions. With a qualifications-based cover letter, you want to show that you are a perfect match for the position, and the goal is emphasizing connections to an alignment with the company through multiple paragraphs where you're using a variety of different types of evidence to make your argument. Whichever method you use, make sure it is set up in the introduction and summarized in the closing. Next, I want to turn to a couple examples of cover letters that illustrate some kind of key aspects that I've been talking about. So first, cover letters 1 and cover letters 2 are both great examples of experience-based cover letters, as each has 2 body paragraphs focused around 2 experiences and multiple examples of the skills gained in each experience. You can see in this one, as an intern at Ag Genetics in the summer of 2015, I was fortunate enough to work with the biotechnology department. We then know that this entire paragraph is going to be about that experience and that job. Next, my extracurricular activities often require working within a team environment, and I've often been a leader within these activities. They then talk about a single position. This is forecasted at the end of the introduction, and it is returned to at the beginning of the conclusion. Same thing with cover letter number 2. During my internship with Liberty Mutual Insurance in the summer of 2015, they then talk about that experience. Through my undergraduate research experience, I was able to satisfy my thirst for knowledge. They then talk about their undergraduate research experience. You can then see it's set up here and returned to here. Cover letter 4 is a good example of a skills-based cover letter. The first paragraph shows the writer's research skills while working in a laboratory, while the second body paragraph shows her leadership skills in 2 different research experiences. So the first one, they're talking about the skills that they gained in the lab. Multiple skills, but all related to laboratory skills. Next, they then talk about leadership. And again, it's in 2 different positions. Aiding students in organic chemistry 2, and then working in Purdue's ScienceScape outreach. Again, they're talking about multiple experiences or multiple skills in each paragraph. This is becoming more common to use a skills-based cover letter, particularly for recent graduates who might have fewer work experiences and need to make an argument for how they gain skills through internships, class projects, research experiences, extracurricular activities, community service, job shadowing, and any number of other experiences. Finally, cover letter 3 is a good example of a qualifications-based cover letter, as it highlights the author's range of workplaces, consulting, fieldwork, and office work, industries, manufacturing industry, and skills, critical thinking, collaboration, and innovation. The author effectively shows how all of these combine to uniquely qualify him to work for Eastman Chemical. Because he's already worked for that company, as well as other companies, each paragraph of this 3-paragraph structure ties back to a central argument. Your company shares my passion for engineering, and I value the firm's commitment to quality, safety, and integrity. This alignment and mentality, along with my previous experiences, would allow me to be a valuable asset in a plant engineering position. Each of these paragraphs then provides different evidence to clarify that argument. He then returns to, at the end, my experiences as an engineering intern in these varying industries, from consulting to manufacturing to energy, and the academic rigor of my mechanical engineering major have contributed to my ability to think critically from varying perspectives. Overall, this is a more complicated cover letter. It is very well written, but it uses a slightly different approach. I would only recommend using a qualifications-based cover letter in a 3-paragraph structure if you feel very comfortable writing traditional cover letters, or if you really have a position where you need to make a strong, compelling argument and use different types of evidence. If this author had used a skills-based or an experience-based cover letter, he would not have been able to make the same arguments that he makes, which is why I encouraged him to switch to a 3-paragraph structure. Finally, I want to point out a couple things in the PowerPoint presentation that I strongly recommend you take a look at. First, some design, tone and style, and a few best practices for each of those, and then some design best practices. You'll get experience in resume design. Cover letters are designed, but it's minimal. There are conventions for cover letter designs that are rather standard, but not many of them. For instance, you want to use font that's between 11 to 12 point font, margins that are between 0.7 and 1.0, and single spacing. You don't want to use double spacing because that's using up too much space. White space and equal-sized paragraphs are key as they help create a balanced and skimmable document. You want to create a visual structure using the acronym HATS, or Headings, Access, Typography, and Space. Headings, you want to have clear, skimmable topic sentences and transition sentences. Access, you want spacing to be balanced and there to be enough white space so that, as you can see with some of the examples, it's clear to see where they begin and where they end. Typography, you want to make sure that you choose a easy-to-read, professional, and modern font choice. And finally, space. You don't want to overcrowd the page. You want to foster readership using line breaks between each paragraph and make sure that it's very easy for the reader to see things. Finally, I want to end by discussing some common mistakes and going back to the rubric. First, some of the common mistakes that I frequently see. First is not enough detail or too much detail. Either it's too vague, it could be written for any job, or it's too technical. It includes way too much information that not all readers would be able to understand. You can resolve this by adding more specific examples or having someone from outside your field, such as me or someone in the writing lab, to help you read it. Paragraphs that are too long, that sort of ramble on, and that include too many kind of different elements, or too short, that don't have enough detail, that just say, I had a job, I did this was my responsibility, and then move on. You can resolve this by trying to make your introduction and your closing roughly equal, and then make each body paragraph roughly equal. That way you're not spending way more time talking about one experience and way less talking about another. Another mistake I see is body paragraphs that do not connect to qualifications for the position. You can resolve this by tailoring consistently in every paragraph, making sure that at the end of your paragraph, you include a statement that says, this is why this is relevant for this job. It might feel a little artificial, but if you do it effectively, it basically says, here's what I gained from this job, and here's how I will bring it to my next position. Another mistake is introductions and conclusions that don't communicate with one another. You want to have your introduction and your conclusion talk to each other. The introduction sets up what you're going to do in the body paragraph, and the conclusion presents sort of your final argument for your audience that sort of closes the deal, that echoes what you did in the introduction and strongly ties together your body. Heading and closing that are incorrectly formatted or unprofessional, using things like to whom it may concern, not having the sender's address, name, or title, not having a signature. This can be resolved by following the format in the textbook and in the samples that I provided. And finally, a cover letter that has not been tailored for the position. You really want to make sure that your cover letters always include details from the experiences, similar to the activity that you will be doing based on cover letters. In general, I think that cover letters are one of the most challenging forms of writing that people do regularly. But if you take the time to carefully plan and revise your work, you can create a strong, tailored, persuasive document. You can also create a document that you can go back later on and use as a basis for future tailored documents by pulling out old materials and experiences and putting in new ones that are relevant to whatever job you are applying for. That's it for today. Good luck with developing your cover letter.